Hello, and thank you for joining us. In this presentation, we're talking about easily tagging documents and creating reusable components. It's all about the MSI Contract Navigator. Now, you're probably wondering if you should be watching this video. Well, here's a couple of questions to help you get to that answer. Do you need to quickly tag contracts or multi-page documents? Will the ability to reuse document components be important? Would automatically identifying document provisions be valuable? Well, if you answered yes to any of these questions, it probably makes sense to watch this video. So let's get started. Here we are in the Alfresco digital workspace, and of course our objective is to analyze, process, and tag a contract quickly and easily. So let's go to our file upload location, drop zone if you will. Let's drag a document into that. Again, documents can get into this drop zone a lot of different ways. Drag and drop manually like you see me doing right here, or it could be dropped in there via a workflow process or an outside system or even an email if you will. But the bottom line, get to know our processing drop zone. Now, I'm going to close out of this. You'll notice it never appeared. The reason for that is, of course, it went straight into the processing folder. So now it sits in here for a few moments, and then from there, it becomes available for us to review. The amount of time to process the document, of course, depends on the size of the document. This is a pretty short document, so it took a few seconds to process. Documents of 200-300 pages take a minute or two. Again, all depends on the size of the document. Now, once the document is processed, it gets dropped into the profiling folder. How would you know that? Well, it could be event notification that automatically lets you know the document is done. It could be part of a workflow process where a task arrives, or in this case, we just go to the folder and here's our document. Of course, I right-click on the document and go to the Contract Navigator option. When I click on that, up pops the interface, and of course, in the center, I see the actual contract. Down the left-hand side, I see the categories, provisions, parties, and attributes that were identified when the document was processed. On the right-hand side, I see all of the metadata that is going to be available for searching in Alfresco. So this is the metadata that has been assigned to this type of document, and of course, the metadata based on your solution. Now, I want to do some quick tagging here. So we'll go to attributes and I'll hit currency. It's going to show me that I found a currency piece using the upper right-hand corner here, 1 of 1. So it found currency 124. So I'm going to simply grab my currency. When I highlight and let go, it pops up a list of the metadata fields available to tag. This is contract value. So I click on that and it assigns the contract value. If I then want to go add some dates, I click date. You'll see some dates here. I can highlight this one. Again, same thing pops up. This is my execution date. So I simply hit execution date. And you see it goes off and assigns that as well. Now, there's a number of them, 3 in this example. Actually, let's go back to the top one up here. This is April 11th, which is my effective date. So I highlight this as April 11th. I hit effective date. You'll notice what happens is it turns it into, well, a useful date. 04/11/2020. And of course, you'll notice there's also the ability to manually update these. Obviously, the objective is to highlight and tag quickly, but you can manually enter metadata if appropriate. Now I'll hit save, and I'll go back to my document. And if I go to info, you'll notice the document metadata has been assigned. So now I can search for this information in Alfresco. You'll see the amount, a couple of dates. Down here, you'll see the processing time, obviously, under a minute, seconds for this size document. When I'm all done, of course, I'm just going to save and close. But again, the data was saved during my Navigator experience. Let's take a look at another use case for the Contract Navigator. I'm at my document here. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to go to Contract Navigator again. And of course, I see my contract. Now, remember all those provisions and all that stuff we saw when we did the metadata tagging? Pretty slick there, where we highlighted, just click it, and boom, it's tagged. In this example, let's talk about reusing existing components in the document, as well as getting comments on the components inside a document. So let's click on Warranties. From here, I can go off and see the warranty sections. You see there's 8 of them right now. 1 of 8 is what I'm looking at. I'm going to highlight this section. When I highlight it, up pops that same screen you saw before. My text is appearing up here. But let's focus on these 2 capabilities. So save to Precedent Bank. I click on that. Some metadata shows up to name it. So my disclaimer. All right. And of course, I can assign topics to this particular section. Now remember, what am I doing? I'm assigning metadata to find this section later. This is an example of metadata we usually do, but of course, based on your solution, you can have additional metadata. And of course, the topics would be a list that you would control as well. But I want to be able to find this topic, or I should say this section later. Okay, my detailed description. All right, so from here, I can go off and simply hit save, and it'll save my component, but it not only will save this text as its own component in Alfresco with this metadata for searching, it'll link it back to the parent document from where it came. And for those of you curious about linking, remember our ADW video covers the idea of linking. But the key is when I find this section later for reuse, I can also see where I got it from. All right. Now, another use case in the same vein of components, I'm going to highlight this section again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off and say route for comment. So I highlight section, hit route for comment. Now I'm able to take this section and send it to somebody for review. So I can send it to Jason and say, please take a look. And of course, based on your solution, we may have more information here. But when I hit this send, it basically does the same thing in that it makes this individual section its own content file, routes that around for review, in this case to Jason for his comments, and creates a link back to the parent document so Jason can either look at the individual section, provide his comments and thoughts, and if need be, he can see the document in total. In other words, all the sections wrapped around this particular section. But again, easy to go off and either send it around for review, which is what I'm doing here, or go off and save a section for reuse later. So what did you learn? Well, you learned you can quickly and easily tag your documents. You can easily store document components for reuse. And of course, getting feedback on individual document components is very simple. So what are your next steps? Well, it's time to reach out to MicroStrategies so we can help you like we help our other clients.